The following program is for informational purposes only. Cryptocurrency is a new science, so do your homework before putting money on the line.
Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, Episode 3.
So today on Coinbase, Bitcoins are hovering at around $680.
Now that's gravy. Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, and thanks for joining us today as we podcast from East Nashville, Tennessee. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw.
We're two Bitcoin enthusiasts who love to talk about Bitcoins
and share what we learn with you, the listener. Welcome to the show, and thanks for listening.
On today's show, we bring on a local East Nashville Bitcoiner, David Winter, for a lively discussion about Mt.Gox and other controversial topics.
And once again, we head on over to the Nashville Bitcoin meetup, where we talk about what it's like to keep and lose family wealth over 8 generations.
We also take you to Israel to talk with Ron Gross, Executive Director of the Mastercoin Foundation.
And at the end of the show, stick around for a super secret Bitcoin surprise. On today's show, we welcome David Winter, a local East Nashville Bitcoiner from up the street. David, how you doing? Welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
Well, pretty simple person. I work from home, which is nice. That's what also gives me the chance to stay abreast of a lot of these topics. I work for a small software company that does mostly labor tracking and simple things like that for construction companies. So
you're used to computers.
Used to computers, and it's very, very not cool what I do. So
is that a requirement to get into Bitcoin?
Being not cool, I think it helps.
How did you discover Bitcoin?
The first time I got laid off after the stock market crashed, 2008, 2009, I started diving into the realm of finance. Growing up more or less lefty and a Democrat, I found I knew absolutely nothing about finance. So I jumped in wholeheartedly and even considered trying to get like a job at a bank or being a trader or being something like that. But I realized I'm a nice guy and I wouldn't make it far in that world. That being said, I still chose to view my politics and, things in general through the prism of finance. And so in staying abreast of what was going on over a really interesting period of our world history, Bitcoin started to emerge up out of that froth and started to get turned onto it by just seeing comments on some of the blogs that I frequented. So that's how I initially came across Bitcoin. And I thought it was an interesting idea at first. I think it was still probably sub $10 at the time. So I didn't have the foresight or the wherewithal to jump in at that time, but it was definitely on the radar from then.
Can you tell us a little bit about acquiring Bitcoin in the early days?
Yeah, well, and that's what's interesting is because, when it first started to take off, I think it jumped from maybe like the 10, 11 range up into the 30s real quick.
Yeah.
Happened, I think, pretty fast. And so from there, I think there was maybe even a couple actual blog posts instead of people commenting. I read zerohedge.com a lot. It's one of my favorite financial websites. And they're a no-spin, pretty anti-politician, pretty anti-establishment, and like to look under the hood and digest numbers. So it went from me maybe finding a few comments that were revolving around the idea of Bitcoin to these bloggers actually now posting some little snippet articles or little news on Bitcoin, and that really, even within that realm, caused it to kind of blow up a little bit. And the conversations and debates on there are really heated. But in any case, to answer the question is, I think when it jumped from in the 30s and then jumped up into like the 70s, that was another big jump. And that maybe happened within a few weeks after that first jump up to 30.
I remember it.
And so I was like, okay, I got to figure this out. So, I start looking online and looking for different ways to get in, and it's all kind of pain in the butt. Being a little bit of a freedom-loving person, I wanted to do as much of it off the radar as I could. So, not wanting to go one of the routes that necessarily linked something with a bank account, and trying to find a way where you were hopefully not going to get ripped off was kind of what I was looking for. I don't even actually remember the company that I used because I'm pretty sure they're one of the ones that are gone now. But in any case, you fill out something online at the computer, and then ran up to CVS, and it was like a MoneyGram exchange. And you would buy it that way, and I bought a couple times that way. Just put a little bit of money in, and then after that, then a bunch of my friends, because I was already in on it, a bunch of my friends, as it started to blow up from there, because then it went from the 70s up into the 270s or 280s,
right,
in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And then I had a bunch of friends who price chasers coming in at the time, wanting me to buy Bitcoin from them. And I'm like, hey, let's do your own due diligence, do some research, figure it out. And if you want to be a Bitcoin player, you got to learn this stuff anyway. Find your way into the game.
Yeah.
So reluctantly, and after this is my best friend I'm talking about here primarily.
He wanted to buy Bitcoin from you?
He wanted me to get the Bitcoin for him.
Oh, right. I see. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So Brad's probably going to listen to this.
The Bitcoin messenger.
Right. So then I go. He talks me into it. He transfers some money to my bank account. I go up there, and now this time, this is maybe a week later. At this point, now there's extra questions when you're filling out the paperwork for the MoneyGram. And the questions are, I think they were like regarding the U.S. Treasury and money laundering. It was like had implications like that on the little questionnaire. And I was like, I got scared. I was like, do I use my real name? I didn't know what to do. I actually turned around and went home and thought about it for about 10 or 15 minutes.
That's a heavy trip to CVS.
It was heavier than normal. Normally it's Q-tips and compressed air. This time it's like, now I'm contemplating.
What are you going to use that Sudafed for, sir?
So in any case, I went back up, finished the transaction, and got it to him. But from there, it kind of just made me a little bit more reluctant and a little bit more, I don't know what the right word would be, but cautious, maybe, in just approaching this. And so from there, that next month or so was sort of Wild West-like in the Bitcoin realm, massive fluctuations in price, and you could tell, by watching Mt.Gox. I would watch their charts using the Clark Moody Bitcoin site. And you could watch the orders fill in real time.
Wow.
And I mean, you want to talk about watching, it was exciting to watch. I mean, there was pretty heavy volume at that point, a lot of people trying to jump into the space. And then I preferred to trade on one of the smaller exchanges. BTCE was the one that I traded. So I would watch Gox for price action, but trade on BTCE because, boy, sure is a lot slower in that one compared to the way the big boys were throwing around big chunks of money and the massive, even a $30-$40 price swing within a couple minutes was par for the course for that. I mean, it's still to some extent like that, but at that point in time, Gox was the game, and so watching there, trading on the other exchange, and trying not to lose my butt.
And this was early spring 2013?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely, because I know one of the things that made me attempt my first withdraw was when our the feds made a statement like, okay, Bitcoin's on the radar and we're going to take a look at it. And there was a price crash that corresponded with that, as Bitcoin likes to react to every piece of news out there, as do our markets in general. But that definitely made it like, okay, you could end up with money trapped on the inside here. So I pulled a good chunk of it and left the rest in to ride. And that's basically where I still am with it. But so I haven't really been jumping in or out or putting a lot of money in recently just because of uncertainty of where this is all going.
Bitcoin is definitely a drama queen.
On that subject of certainty, in terms of security, what do you do to keep, let's say, I don't know how many Bitcoins you own, and that's not my business. Let's say you own 5. Are they all out there on an exchange, or do you have any paper wallets? Because I've always heard that just having your Bitcoins on an exchange or your USD on an exchange, well, right now, this week, Mt.Gox, case in point, if you have a Bitcoin on Mt.Gox, you can't get it off, which, is really a crime. I don't know if it's literally a crime, but it seems like a crime. So what do you do for security,
I should be more secure than I am. I do have 4 online wallets at different exchanges, and I just basically open them all up around the same period of time just in what I was reading and listening to other people, and they were saying, hey, there is risk. Don't be an idiot. So, I mean, it's Bitcoin's way of diversification. It's nice to have some exposure to it at the same time, because of whether it's, I heard about a Mac virus recently that was installing on some wallet software and was kind of pilfering bits of Bitcoin from the people who were using that, or whether it was some of the hack attempts that all of these exchanges have faced over this period of time. Because now criminals like money, and when there's a lot of interest in a particular space, those elements will find their way into it and figure out ways to get them some.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, when I hear you use an example like 5 Bitcoins, which at a height might have equaled, $5,000-$6,000.
Yeah.
And then the implication in that question is, oh my gosh, how do you treat that so carefully in many wallets? And is it on exchange? Is it in your home wallet, in a paper wallet? I think about the example of how recently I was buying a used car on Craigslist this last year, which cost about $5,000 to $6,000. And it wasn't that big a deal to just take that much cash out, put it in my pocket, go make the car purchase, and be done with it. It's not sometimes I think some of these descriptions get blown out of proportion in terms of fear factor, when obviously if you're talking about large numbers and life savings, it's a huge deal. But for a lot of transactions, we don't want to lose money, but come on, we carry money in our pockets to go out to dinner and go get a drink, whatever, go to the grocery store. And so I think that sometimes people take it a little too extreme, worrying about what's going to happen if.
I agree, but, if you have $750 in your pocket right now, or, you lay your wallet down, it disappears, that hurts, right?
It does hurt.
But if you have one Bitcoin and it gets stolen from you, that hurts even more, because in the back of your mind, you're thinking a year from now, that could be, $750,000. We have all these projections. So I think it hurts more for that reason, because we have these projections and the volatility, and we're optimistic about Bitcoin, the protocol.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference. But I agree there's a kind of an unusual paranoia about holding onto your Bitcoins and securing your Bitcoins. But, like David said, yeah, this is kind of the Wild West of this new currency, this new store of value, if you will, and the thieves are out there.
Yeah.
Yes, they are.
I feel like we have more to gain by putting aside our fears and moving forward with the use of Bitcoin than we do by holding back and being afraid to get into it because something might happen.
I agree.
Right. But at the same time, I would say, don't put more skin in the game than you feel like you can lose.
Fortunately, I don't have a whole lot of skin in the game
either.
Me either.
So we're good.
And on the subject of Mt.Gox, back to that just for a second. Andreas Antonopoulos is one person who recently has talked about the way that they have their whole site set up, and it has a lot to do with their lack of knowledge or their lack of interest, or both, in getting the technology right. Because they have their technology wrong, certain things have happened there, and if they survive this, will continue to happen until they get some developers in there who know what they're doing and who know how to code. That's their big problem right now. But I say, is it by design? If all through the history of Mt.Gox you had, or over the past 2 years, you had a Japanese bank account and you could get yen out, right? It's an arbitrage made in heaven, right? You can just make money hand over foot. So maybe that was the real design. I'm not saying this by design, but if it was designed for that purpose, a lot of people have made a lot of money.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely lots of different ways to look at where Mt.Gox is and how they got there at this point. One of the things is, who knew it was going to get this big? So a lot of times I think maybe when you're looking at maybe what some of the developers were thinking, and when this, because the site was originally for Magic, the card game.
What's it called, Lidge?
Magic the Gathering. Magic the Gathering.
Is there anything you want to add?
I don't know much about it, other than I know it's sort of like a Dungeons and Dragons a Dungeons and Dragons sort of thing.
And so that's how Gox was originally founded. So I'm sure dealing with multiple millions of dollars and having all this money flying around and having the set of problems that they ended up with on their lap was not their original intent. And is probably at some point did end up getting beyond. As I saw somebody say, the system that Gox has was not designed for scalability, which, again, who could have foreseen some of this stuff? I'm sure there was a few of those brilliant minds out there who did see it as, for the potential that it had.
Right.
But
I think it's fair to say then that, if they had had an ear to the tech community and to the developers that are, developing Bitcoin, if they'd had an ear to the ground like we did, certainly they would have started making changes, right? Because there were a lot of people that already knew that they were having problems with their development team and with their coding. How could they not have known that?
Well, and I think that to me has been what was most disappointing it coming out of Gox, and why we could maybe use the word criminal there. What we saw was Gox basically shut down their ability to withdraw on about the 7th. And so everybody was eagerly looking for the statement that they released on yesterday, I think. Yeah.
Monday,
So Monday the 10th. So that right there, I think, is what, hey, Gox could make it through all of this and end up stronger like they've made it through the last few problems, different issues they've had, whether it's been with law, dealing with people who were using their exchanges to buy drugs, problems with the Silk Road, or other companies who were money transmitters who weren't properly classified as money transmitters and were finding themselves in trouble with our feds. So, I think a lot of the initial problems in Gox were due to the federal side of things kind of creeping up on them, and that causing problems with some of the counterparties they were dealing with. And then also, I think to some extent, they were not necessarily classifying themselves as money transmitters. So they had a couple pretty chunky accounts stolen. I think maybe a U.S. account or two, and then maybe a Japanese account or two that had multiple millions of dollars in it. So, I think those things happened. But to finish my thought was when they came out with their statement yesterday and then blamed it on the Bitcoin protocol, that to me alienated them from the rest of the Bitcoin community. And the only people that it's not going to hurt them with are people who are just stepping into Bitcoin and don't know anything about it and have just heard of Gox because of brand recognition.
Yeah, right. Classic PR move, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Which to me is so short-sighted, and especially just kind of glancing around at the reaction from the community itself, especially the core development community. And then not only that, but the CEO sits on the Bitcoin Foundation board, and so a lot of people are now calling for his resignation because a lot of people have stepped out and have distanced themselves from Gox, saying, hey, this malleability problem that was referred to in the statement, that's a known issue, and it's an issue, but so it's basically saying no unconfirmed transactions are safe. Once they start to get confirmations, then they're secure.
Can you just explain a little bit about what is this issue that they're talking about?
Well, I don't think I know a lot about it to really give a great answer, but the general gist of it seems to be that there is a potential for double spending on transactions that have not been confirmed by the network. So there's that initial period of time right after the transaction's been conducted where it's still not confirmed.
Which even as a Bitcoin beginner, I now already know you might want to wait 30 minutes to an hour for 3 to 6 verifications on the blockchain to know that your transaction has gone through.
Somehow Gox was reading the transactions incorrectly. That's all I know.
And again, I don't think it was a problem at the back in the day when Gox was, when Bitcoin was what it was, but now that it's blown up. And again, when you have volatility like we have, that is not necessarily good for a business who's trying to conduct themselves in a way where they have to deal with mass deposits or mass withdrawals based on investor sentiment with every spike in Bitcoin. So, it does set some interesting things, and it's kind of like in an ideal situation and everything's just kind of moving along and nobody comes and gets their money at once, everything's fine. Not saying Bitcoin is fractional reserve like our current monetary system, but to some extent, when everybody wants everything at once, that's going to cause some problems. And I think it also, in Gox's defense, what they're claiming is that they sort of have maybe this hot wallet where stuff's getting withdrawn from it typically, but in periods where you have massive spikes of withdrawals, maybe due to a crash in the price or something like that. So they say that they have a lot of the Bitcoin stored in cold storage, so that it takes time for them to get the Bitcoins from there and transfer them and then start to distribute from there. So.
But who's to say that they're not acting as a fractional reserve? There's no way for us to know that. For instance, if you have 10 Bitcoins on Mt.Gox, you don't really have 10 Bitcoins sitting there in the same way that you don't have $1,000 sitting in the vault at your bank, right?
Theoretically, because I was just thinking about that concept this morning, and I haven't come to any final conclusions on it, because I think there are those two sides, in the sense that we're in a fractional reserve. If we all went to the bank at once and tried to withdraw, we'd have problems. Whereas we should have, our transactions, our wallet numbers, the amount that's in the wallets, they should all be accounted for at some place. Now, I think you're right that it's possible that some of these exchanges could be playing games or maybe playing their own arbs or seeing where they can get away with different things. But it has been interesting to see a couple of the other exchanges step out too and kind of throw Gox under the bus. Say, hey, we're not looking at the transactions the same way Gox does. We're looking at them in a different way, so we're not necessarily having to deal with the problems that Gox says they're dealing with. And also a few people, whether they're CEOs of Bitcoin companies or whether they were Bitcoin developers, they're really, really upset with Gox, and they are, adamant that the problem is not with Bitcoin, the problem is with Gox. And so I think, where we're at with that now, it will be interesting to see if Gox can pull through it. I mean, they went from being 70% of the volume in Bitcoin in April to less than 20% today.
At one point, they were 90%.
Right, yeah.
Go back a year or so.
Yeah.
That is a magical gathering.
Oh, you're killing me. Hey, so David, make a prediction. Mt.Gox will survive, or this is the death of old Mt.Gox?
Well, I think a lot of people have jumped out before and called the death of Mt.Gox only to see them bounce back a little stronger. Prediction, I don't think they'll get that market share back that they've lost. They could. It would be very feasible for them to stay open, provided they do the right things. Maybe make more than just PR spin. Maybe hire a couple people and show some real good faith to the Bitcoin community, because I think they've done a lot of damage to their reputation. And in a game like this right now, reputation is the only thing you got.
And like you said, have a little more respect for the developers and what Gavin and his crew are doing, right? The good stewards of Bitcoin. I think that it would be so easy for them to have learned from those guys.
Yeah. And again, because of the way their statement comes out, everybody's looking forward to, hey, what are they going to say? And then they're like, oh, it's not us, it's Bitcoin.
Right. And, if I was Mt.Gox, I would have a long time ago, as soon as I realized we had development problems or coding problems, I would have consulted with someone like Gavin, and I would have said, hey, can you help us? We'll pay you a consulting fee to come, help us get this right, get the tech end of it right. What's so hard about that? It's not like they didn't have the money, right?
Right.
I mean, that's ridiculous. I say this is the beginning of the death of old Mt.Gox. That's what I say. That's my prediction.
I have to say that I can't help wondering, having heard Warren Buffett say something along the lines in 2009 that his investing philosophy was when everybody rushes in, he steps back and gets out of the picture, and when everybody rushes out, he just walks right in to collect. And I wonder, is there an opportunity like that now with Mt.Gox? As it crashes, maybe it's the best time to invest in Mt.Gox.
Well, and maybe not even necessarily in Mt.Gox, but I think because we're talking about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin is a Bitcoin whether you're trading it on BTCE or whether you're trading it on Gox.
Unless you can't get it out.
Unless you can't get it out.
Right.
But with the problems that Gox is having, it's definitely having an impact on the price.
Yeah.
And so as it's having an impact on the price, provided you think that going forward it's a good investment opportunity, these are dips that could be bought and maybe should be bought. And, Warren Buffett, he's a king investor, and that's what they say about the big dogs. They buy when there's blood in the streets. And you look at what we had a few months ago when, every day or 2 days some good news would come out. China, Baidu, the Chinese Google taking it for payments, the Vancouver ATMs opening up, which when you talk about getting money in and out.
I just got an email this morning that Fiverr.com is now accepting Bitcoins.
Exactly, yeah,
Nice.
or Overstock.com.
When Bitcoins finally go down to being worth $5 again, it'll be a great exchange there.
I don't think we're going to see that happen.
This is Paul Freeman. He was saying some pretty fascinating stuff about being an 8th generation Tennessean and understanding permaculture and farm culture here and how it might apply to Bitcoin.
I'm Paul Freeman. My current company is Freemen Domes. It's plural, Freemen. And we're focused on providing some off-grid solutions with permaculture design and biotexture techniques using a lot of different ancient techniques and food forest applications. My background is an 8th generation Tennessean. I've been here my entire life, born in Vanderbilt, and my professional career I've been doing underwater construction. And after the BP disaster, my career shifted. I took my loss of income payment from BP and I invested in a monolithic dome company, and we build permanent structures that'll stand up to 450 mile per hour winds. They don't rot, they don't burn, earthquakes can't bring them down, and just starting to focus on a more permanent solution for a lot of the problems that we face as humanity. So I was attracted by Bitcoins.
Are you accepting them for your domes yet?
Yes, we accept Bitcoins for dome payments and any other kind of off-grid kind of solutions you have, solar panels, hoop houses, raised beds, farm setups.
Tell us the name of the company one more time, please.
Freeman Domes.
And then you also mentioned something about 8th generation Tennessean and, having experienced what you felt like was a coming and going of wealth in that many generations and had a relationship to currency, how you thought Bitcoin might be a good solution.
Well, from what I've studied, in the 1790s, my family were indentured servants, and we got the last name Freeman, and they came into the Carolinas and settled in Tennessee. First recorded record was in 1796. And ever since then, my family's been through a lot of different cycles. I know that we lost wealth during the Civil War, we lost wealth during the Great Depression, and then through all the inflation since December 23rd, 1913, when they enacted the Federal Reserve Act and instituted the system that we live under now. We've only seen our wealth diminish more and more since then.
Well, one thing you haven't lost is a proficiency for family history.
No.
Cool. Thanks very much, Paul. That was great.
Absolutely.
Today, Lidge and I have the pleasure of speaking with Ron Gross, Executive Director of the Mastercoin Foundation. Ron, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Sure. Can you give us a little background about how you came to be involved with the Mastercoin Foundation?
Yeah, so I'll be happy to. Mastercoin is, or the idea of Mastercoin has been around for more than 2 years now. J.R. Willett, the founder, had published a white paper on, I think it was January 2012. That got circulated a bit. He worked on the details and refined it. And finally, in August of 2013, he launched the first version of the white paper. That's basically the spec of what Mastercoin is. Then, we did the fundraiser during August. JR started the fundraiser and gathered up various members of Beat Angels to help him build the Mastercoin Foundation, which is a nonprofit foundation dedicated to really safeguarding this budget and allocating it or spending it to build the Mastercoin protocol and the various clients and open source implementations. We've been working for several months and gathering up speed. At first, most of the development happened by outsourced or external bounties that JR mostly published. Over the last few months, we've started the transition into a more in-house mode of development, where we have several dedicated developers and other team members that are just working, they're quitting their day jobs and coming and working on Mastercoin full time. And this is going to really accelerate this February as we have 7 full-time people just coming online.
Ron, what are Mastercoins and how can they be used?
What are the use cases?
Yes.
Mastercoin solves, or actually the Master Protocol, as we like to call it now, solves a few key problems or deficiencies in Bitcoin. Maybe the most talked about problem with Bitcoin or difficulty is the volatility. As we've all seen, there have been various bubbles and bursts over the last few years. And right now, for anyone holding Bitcoin, they have to really be exposed to that currency risk. They can't use all the nice properties of Bitcoin without, worrying if their savings will be wiped out. And we've seen major fluctuations over a few hours even. Mastercoin allows you to take digital currencies, to take Mastercoins, and to peg their value to any other asset or commodity that you want. You can peg it to dollars, to gold, to euros, to stocks, to whatever you want. And then basically you choose your degree of exposure to whatever asset is out there. And you still retain all the beautiful properties of Bitcoin as a decentralized currency. So pegging a value to something external, this is one major feature or one major pain that we're solving. Another important problem in the Bitcoin space is, of course, the security. And everyone, coming into Bitcoin always gets these lectures on how to store Bitcoin correctly and securely. You have different startups and devices trying to solve that problem. So with Mastercoin, you can dedicate or you can designate specific wallets or addresses as saving accounts that are by definition not these addresses. They have reversible transactions. So you can keep your private keys for these wallets elsewhere, offline, and somewhere that's not accessible by any hacker. And if there is anything, someone hacks your computer and tries to get all your Mastercoins, you can always issue a chargeback within a configurable period of time. Another important part of the ecosystem that Mastercoin comes into play here is user-generated currencies. Now, there have been a lot of attempts over the last few years, or a lot of services where people can create or do IPOs for their companies, create shares, sell them over various different exchanges. A lot of these exchanges have been closed over the last year especially. We've seen GLBC, Bitfunders, and others close off to US customers or limit their service in any way or in some ways. The Master Protocol allows you to issue your own currency, your own smart property, your own decentralized application, and just trade that on the same distributed exchange where you can trade all the other assets in Mastercoin.
So, Ron, I would like to follow up with a couple of questions based on what you just said that caught my ear. One is, could you explain further the meaning of pegging the value of Mastercoin to another currency?
The best way I can explain this is perhaps with an example. So let's say you and I both have 100 Mastercoins, and let's say that one Mastercoin is currently worth $15. So we both have the value of $1,500 at our disposal. So I'm a pegger. I want to peg the value of my Mastercoins to the dollar. I want to always have $1,500. You're what we call a speculator. You're speculating that the dollar's value will change compared to the Mastercoin, and you want to profit from that. So you and I can go into a distributed contract, which basically says we're both putting our 100 Mastercoins in a joint pool, and we're following the value of the dollar. And whenever that contract breaks, I always get $1,500 worth of Mastercoin, and you always get the rest of this pool of money. Right? Now, we have information feed providers that are pumping information into the blockchain and basically stating what the current value of the dollar per Mastercoin is. So when the contract breaks, when either of us want to break the contract or when time elapses, then the blockchain automatically knows or has the information on how much of this joint 200 Mastercoin pool belongs to each of us. So we both get what we bargained for without trusting any centralized authority to hold our funds. We are trusting the feed provider to provide accurate information. And this is why we should always use feeds from recognized, reputable companies. But we can also aggregate a few of these price feeds and just choose, an average of a few of the feeds or majority of the feeds that we choose to rely on.
Yeah, I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it. I'm sure our listeners are too. Ron, what does it mean that your Mastercoin wallet is also your Bitcoin wallet? This seems a bit confusing to me. How does the blockchain differentiate or keep them separate?
So the blockchain is one single blockchain, right? What's different is the parsing. We have one wallet software that supports Bitcoin, Mastercoins, test Mastercoins, and any other asset that's issued on top of Mastercoin. Now, this wallet software just parses all the Bitcoin transaction because everything in our design boils down eventually to a Bitcoin transaction. So our wallet parses all these different transactions and understand which of these are real Bitcoins you have in your wallet and which of these transactions also encode other forms of value. every Mastercoin transaction is encoded in a tiny Bitcoin transaction. All right, so it's a dual meaning. You also get the Bitcoins from that transaction, but you also get the Mastercoins or other derived currency that is encoded on those bits and bytes.
So, Ron, what does it mean to coinify something? Can anything be coinified?
Yeah, so I think you're referring to what maybe Dominic posted on our blog last time. You know, you have different types of coins that you can issue, right? And some of these will be these contracts that I talked about. You can take the contract that you and I have. You can divide it up, right? We have a $1,500 contract, right? You can divide it up to 1,500 pieces and just, suddenly you have $1,500 at your disposal. Each of these slices of contract is actually a coin. You can go and pay with that, and you can slice it up to smaller pieces if you want. So this is one example of coinifying this contract. Now, another thing would be, of course, the smart property angle. Basically lets anyone create a coin that represents whatever contract they're willing to abide by, right? So if I'm starting a new company, I can issue 1 million tokens and then IPO those and just later on give dividends to holder of these coins. If I own a house or several real estate assets, I can allocate a coin to each of them and then have that coin, that digital representation of an asset, be traded. So a coin in this context is just something that you can own and trade freely on the exchange.
Is the Mastercoin Foundation itself coinified?
Well, you could think about it that way. I wouldn't stick too much to the term coinified. I mean, it's just something that we use to explain things. But essentially, the Mastercoin is the first protocol, other than Bitcoin, of course, that lets you invest directly in the success of the protocol. So in a sense, yes, it is coinified because you can buy Mastercoins. If you believe that the protocol would be successful, you can buy Mastercoins and basically be a part of that success, right? You can trade these and use that inside the protocol.
I see.
And like Mastercoin, there will be other protocols that will follow up and build on top of this infrastructure that will allow all sorts of different operations to be coinified in this way.
Okay, hey, I've got a question for you. When we talk about Bitcoin decentralizes ownership by distributed mining, right? How does Mastercoin centralize ownership? Is it basically the same thing?
Right, so it's not quite like Bitcoin. We had the decentralized IPO in the sense that anyone, we published or JR published the IPO, everything was public. And there was no pre-mine at all, but just rather everyone got what they invested in. And this is, everyone was invited to invest, and whoever invested got his money's worth as a form of Mastercoins. And now the Mastercoins are traded on the open market, but they're not being issued anymore. No new Mastercoins are being created right now. Although we have actually some recent discussions of doing some changes to allow users to pay transaction fees in Mastercoin. And this way, we can also engage the mining community. It's a bit early, so there aren't a lot of technical details and just preliminary discussions, but it's also something we're considering as a way to just distribute Mastercoins out to the mining community. And this is in relation to the upcoming changes in Bitcoin 0.9 that will basically separate the miners that just look at the Bitcoin transactions and the full archive nodes that hold other metadata information like Mastercoin.
You mentioned investors. How many initial investors are there, and what percentage of Mastercoins do they own? Do you feel that these initial investors have any unfair advantage over others who may wish to invest in Mastercoins?
Yeah, so there were all of BitAngels were specifically exposed to Mastercoin, and there was nothing private about the IPO. So anyone could invest, and we also had the articles in various places. I myself spoke about Mastercoin in the context of the Israeli meetup group. There were, I don't know the exact number, I think about 100 or so, or maybe more different investors. I admit that there is a certain concentration or initial concentration of master coins with a few holders, but this is just a way of how that IPO went. And the market itself will, determine how these tokens get divided. Now, and regarding any claims of unfair advantages, I would compare Mastercoin to a startup, basically. Most startups, or almost all startups, you get an initial group of 1, 2, 3, 4 people maybe that just come together, create an idea, and they end up owning huge chunks of that company, right?
Right.
And they start bringing in slowly angel investors and VCs, and it takes years and years until they IPO and basically let anyone join their investment. Mastercoin and other protocols that are IPO'd in a similar way, they take a different approach. Anyone can join from an early stage. So, if you compare the centralization of Mastercoin to other things, Mastercoin is more decentralized than any startup that I know of. But it's more centralized than Bitcoin because it had a short issuance period.
I
so
see.
It's somewhere in the middle.
I have to confess something to you that when I first heard about Mastercoins, I got excited. I read a little bit of the white paper, and then I went right out. I went to Cripsy, and I bought a whole bunch of Mastercoins. I think I bought 30,000 Mastercoins. Right. Well, and then I saw, there's only going to be 600,000 Mastercoins ever mined, and so I thought, I'm going to be a millionaire, right? And then I realized, of course, that I had bought the wrong Mastercoin. I'm sure that you all are not happy knowing that there is another cryptocurrency out there that does not have anywhere near the utility of your Mastercoin and the Mastercoin project. What do you think about that? Is there any way to stop these guys?
Well, it's the free internet, right? Anybody does what they want. J.R. Willett published the concept of Mastercoin, as I said, more than 2 years ago now. So, our Mastercoin, his Mastercoin is the real Mastercoin. Unfortunately, another group came a long time after that and created another currency coin, Mastercoin, and which is just basically a Bitcoin fork without any other special properties added. With the whole range of Bitcoin forks and alts we have today, really an investor needs to do his homework and understand what the correct coin is. And it's really unfortunate that there are exchanges trading these. But we're working our angle to just get our coin, the MSC coin, into exchanges, and I advise anyone to just really make sure that whatever coin they're buying is the right coin, and not just go on by what's listed on some exchange.
That's good advice. And the good news for me is I think I only spent like $20.
All right. That's great. But, also a word to the wise, if you're seeing a terrific deal, the deal of your life, so just double check your facts, go to an independent source, and make sure that whatever it is you're buying is really what you think you're buying.
If the deal is too good to be true, it probably is. I've read that there are always job openings with Mastercoin, but not in the traditional sense. Can you explain to our listeners how your bounty system works for people interested in helping to develop Mastercoin and the Mastercoin Foundation?
Oh, this is an excellent question. Thanks for that. So, as I said, we are basically transitioning or learning as we go along what is the right bounty system for us. We started by using traditional bounties, and that's, we have a Trello board or several Trello boards with just any old task out there, starting from web development, marketing. Every specific task there has a bounty in Bitcoin, and every one of these bounties also deserves or awards for its completion an additional amount of Mastercoin. So when you complete such a bounty, you get the set amount in Bitcoins, and you get a bonus amount on Mastercoin, which is something that a lot of people are not aware of. So we have that bounty model set up. In addition, we also have other bounty models for people that we're working with more closely. And we started by having hourly bounties. We just hire people for IT and for communication and other tasks, and just pay them by an hourly basis. And then recently, in the last few months, we've transitioned a lot of the work to just role-based bounties that are much like traditional jobs, right? You just we do a series of interviews, we allocate a role or a position, and then you just get the pay, basically your paycheck every month. Right now, we are still awarding and controlling these bounties, but it's important to understand that the goal for us is to transition away from this centralized mode of controlling the funds into a mode that the protocol itself or all Mastercoin holders will control the funds and will control all of these bounties. I mean, in a year from now, hopefully a lot sooner, the protocol and every Mastercoin holder will be able to hire new people, fire people, increase wages, do every financial decision regarding to bounty allocation.
I consider that to be a really awesome concept.
Absolutely. That's great.
Ron, how can we find you and how do people find out more about Mastercoin Foundation?
Right. So the main website for us is mastercoin.org, and we're also setting up a few other websites for informational purposes, which will be launched in the following weeks or months. We have a lot of activity over at our Facebook group and Reddit channel. And just go to facebook.com/Mastercoin, I think, and Reddit/Mastercoin. And all the links should be at the mastercoin.org website. We also have forums at mastercointalk.org, and there is some activity over at Bitcoin Talk as well.
Hey, Ron, I have one more question for you. How's the weather there in Israel?
Well, it's actually quite nice this time of year. Not enough rain for my taste.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for joining us today on the Bitcoins and Gravy Show. We really appreciate you being here, and we look forward to hearing more about Mastercoin Foundation.
Thank you for your interest and for having me, and looking forward to catching you up later.
Cheers.
Thanks, Ron.
Hey, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the interviews with David Winter and Ron Gross and our talk with Paul Freeman. Thanks so much for listening. We appreciate your time and attention.
Hey, Lidge, let's also give a special thanks to our friends in Southern California listening in on station KCAA 1050 AM. Tune in Thursdays at 7 p.m. Pacific Time to hear new episodes of Bitcoins and Gravy. And make sure to catch more great shows from the Let's Talk Bitcoin Network, airing all week right here on KCAA 1050 AM. Or download the podcast from letstalkbitcoin.com.
That's right, John. We are proud to be part of the first Bitcoin podcast network of shows that includes Mad Money Machine with Paul Boyer, Living Freely with Stephanie Murphy, Ed and Ethan's Bitcoin Report, and of course, the gold medal champion of America's Olympic podcasting team, Let's Talk Bitcoin with Andreas Antonopoulos, Stephanie Murphy, and Adam B. Levine.
If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and leave us a review on iTunes. Whether 3 stars or 5 stars, it's your reviews that help new listeners discover the show. And it's your generous tips that allow us to create the show.
Our tipping address can be found at the show notes for Bitcoins and Gravy at letstalkbitcoin.com. And we thank you in advance for your generous contributions.
I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw, and you've been listening to
Bitcoins and Gravy from East Nashville, Tennessee.
Psst. Hey, you. How'd you like a VIP pass to the super secret Bitcoins and Gravy after show? Yeah? Well, follow me. We're taking you live now to the historic Woodland Street Theater in beautiful East Nashville, Tennessee, where Reverend Johnny's big band Down Home Country Jam is set to debut their new single, Ode to Satoshi. Hit it, Johnny.
Thank you very kindly, friends. I'd like to dedicate this song to the great American freedom fighter and songwriter, Mr. Pete Seeger. May you rest in peace. I would also like to dedicate this song to Andreas Antonopoulos for his words of wisdom and hope for us all. Now climb aboard, y'all. This train is bound for glory. And there's plenty of room for all. Well,
Satoshi Nakamoto, that's a name I love to say. And we don't know much about him, but he came to save the day. When he wrote about the way things are and the way things ought to be, he gave us all a protocol this world had never seen. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Down the road it will be told about the death of old Mt.Gox, about traders trading altar coins and miners mining blocks. But them good old boys back in Illinois and on down through Tennessee, see, they don't care to be a millionaire, they're just wanting to be free. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Halls of Parliament, while the bankers count our money out for every government. Oh, Bitcoin flies on through the skies of virtuality, a promise to deliver us from age-old tyranny. Oh, Bitcoin, as you're going into the old blockchain. Oh, Bitcoin, I know you're going to reign, till everybody knows, till everybody knows your name. Till everybody knows, till everybody knows your. Give me some exposure. Everybody knows your name. Sing it. Oh Lord, pass me some more. Oh Lord, before I have to go. Oh Lord, pass me some more. Oh Lord, before I have to go. Thank you, East Nashville. Y'all be good to each other out there, you hear?
Hey everybody, this is Paul Boyer of the Mad Money Machine, winner of the Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast competition. Brandishing the blockchain to fight good versus evil, this is the battle of the century. This is the Mad Money Machine, coming to you every Tuesday at 2 p.m. immediately after the Dave Ramsey Show on KCAA Radio 1050 AM and on letstalkbitcoin.com. I'm out to prove that a show about Bitcoin can be fun. Each week we play a round of the world's favorite game, Guru Roulette. And to make your Bitcoin life easier, I'll tell you about the Bitcoin Tool of the Week. We'll also take a minute to look at the market for Bitcoins. And of course, we take a critical look at everyone in the headlines in this battle for the new economy. I hope you'll join me every Tuesday at 2 p.m. at KCAA Radio, 1050 AM, and at madmoneymachine.com or letstalkbitcoin.com.
I'm Ed.
I'm Ethan. And together we host Ed and Ethan's Bitcoin Report live Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern on KCAA Radio 1050 AM.
It's a show all about the world's leading cryptocurrency, Bitcoin.
Not everybody we talk to agrees with us.
Like Peter Schiff.
Bitcoins are not money. They're not better than gold. It's not gold 2.0.
But we get some great perspectives from people like Eric Voorhees.
Nothing has intrinsic value. Things are valued subjectively by the people doing the valuing.
Sometimes it gets controversial.
Like when we talk to Charlie Shrem.
Why can't a government stop it, or why can't a government come in? The same reason that the government has tried to shut down file sharing.
And good times with friends and allies like Roger Ver.
It's always great to talk about Bitcoin with anyone willing to listen. And thank you guys for your wonderful coverage. I listen from time to time myself.
Oh my goodness,
Awesome.
I've just become Twitter pet Roger. You have given me a case of the vapors, good sir.
So tune in live Wednesday nights and give us a call or download direct from edandethan.com.